My former CMO at WGSN, he always used to say that the day you start working at WGSN, you become the most interesting person in the room. My hope is that by listening to Lives of Tomorrow, you also become the most interesting person in every room you walk into. To succeed in times of uncertainty, you need insight, not intuition. For over a quarter of a century, WGSN has been forecasting consumer behaviour and product trends for the world's most successful brands. And with our 2 podcasts, bringing our insight, analysis and future forecast to the wider world. I'm Carla Buzasi, CEO of WGSN, and I've been with WGSN for 10 years now, working with our clients to future-proof their companies, as well as keep our company at the forefront of innovation. My fellow podcast host, Cassandra Napoli, is our head of consumer insight. And between the 2 of us, today we thought we'd give you a little taster of what's to come on the WGSN podcasts in 2026. Hello, Cassandra.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I think I can say Happy New Year. It's still January, right?
Still January. It's okay.
So if you work in fashion, beauty, consumer tech, or pretty much any other consumer lifestyle industry, no doubt you're already intimately connected with WGSN. But for everyone else, we thought it might be time for a little reintroduction, kind of like all those Instagram influencers, but there may be some fewer photos of our kids and pets. So put simply, WGSN forecasts the future. We're a global team of forecasters, data scientists, anthropologists, and market economists. We predict the clothes in your wardrobe, the lotions in your bathroom cabinet, the tins, packets, and bottles in your kitchen cupboards, the tech in the palm of your hand, the colour you'll paint the walls of your home, and much, much more. We crunch data from social and search through to consumer sentiment and e-commerce shelf data. We observe human behaviours, attend trade shows the world over, as well as things like festivals, catwalks, and other cultural events. And then we use advanced algorithms and technology to predict both the longevity and volume of particular trends. So you might not have heard of us, but the designer who created your new season jeans, the product specialist who made your must-have moisturiser, and the strategist who decided to add homeware to their brand collection relies on us as their secret weapon for success. And with our 2 podcasts, you get the inside track on what's happening next, whether that helps you in your professional life or you're just fascinated by tomorrow's world. And today's episode is all about those 2 podcasts, reintroducing them and letting you know a little bit more about the 2 podcasts. So why don't we start with Create Tomorrow? Cassandra, can you explain more about this podcast, what we've done in the past and the plan for 2026?
In the past, in last year in 2025, we really took the concept of innovation and led with that on Create Tomorrow. So we looked at companies, people, businesses, ideas that were creating a new version of tomorrow that was really interesting and moving. But in 2026, we're really going to focus and drill down into highlighting how trends are translated into aesthetics and product design. And that's really the big point of difference between Lives of Tomorrow and Create Tomorrow going forward. That's something I'm really excited about to dig into is that design element. I'm the head of consumer insight. So I spend my days talking about how consumers think, feel, and behave. But I'm now going to get to see what happens after that, right? After we understand who our consumer is, what happens? How do we translate some of those ideas back into product design? And, as you were saying, the colors on the walls that show up in your house and the bottles in your cabinet and your beauty drawer and things of that nature. So that's what's really exciting. And the podcast is really going to be for designers, product developers, buyers, marketers in a way too. They'll all walk away with insights that are quite actionable and tangible. And our aim is to really allow them to walk away saying, I know what to make for next season. I know what colors are going to be key for my collections in the future, things of that nature.
Every time we talk about the colour of people's walls, I kind of want to turn around because I'm in a room where I've got a very specifically painted colour wall. But for people who have been following this podcast for a while and watch our kind of social media snippets, this wall is going to be changing colour soon. So my home office is one of my stepson's bedrooms. It's just all his Lego and stuff is out of shot. And he has decided he's had enough of this kind of very specific teal and he wants something a bit more grown up. He's 13 now, he wants something a bit more grown up. So I imagine, if not by the next podcast, but the one after that, it's going to be a more sophisticated grey behind me, which makes me a little bit sad, but is going to make a 13-year-old very, very happy. So maybe at some stage we should talk about why 13-year-old boys want grey rather than teal. That might have to be one of the Create Tomorrow episodes.
I have to also admit that in the next room, I have my dad over my house right now, literally painting because I change my mind so often. And he's painting a different color that is actually in line with WGSN's colors of the year. So there's that.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. That's absolutely what we like to hear. Now, for lots of people who have been following these podcasts for a while, they'll probably know that Create Tomorrow was actually our only podcast for some time. And we launched Lives of Tomorrow later to really deliver on that sort of second forecasting perspective, concentrating more on strategy, human behaviors. So the why, arguably, to Create Tomorrow's what and how. And so for those of you who tune in to mine, Lives of Tomorrow this year, you can expect to hear more on macro trends. So the overarching themes that govern all of our lives, politics and the economy through to technology and culture as well. So we're really going to major on societal shifts, ethics, global economics, plenty of change there at the moment, and leadership. There's quite a lot of change there too. And all with a firm eye on what's going to happen next. So if you're a CEO or a founder, maybe a brand strategist or an innovator, my mission is to make Lives of Tomorrow a hall pass to smarter decisions. Now, my former CMO at WGSN, he always used to say that the day you start working at WGSN, you become the most interesting person in the room. My hope is that by listening to Lives of Tomorrow, you also become the most interesting person in every room you walk into. So as an example, for WGSN clients, our most in-demand forecast is our annual Future Consumer Report. And so we're going to dedicate an entire series of episodes into the different personas that we're forecasting for 2028, as well as the emotions that are driving those personas. So listeners, make sure you tune in and you can see if you can spot yourself in any of the emerging cohorts. And they go way beyond your usual Gen Z or millennial categories. So it's about psychographics more than demographics. And we'll talk a lot more about that as well. So, Cass, what topics have you got in the show reel, I guess, for Create Tomorrow in 2026?
We've already recorded our first episode, and that's with Mary Stanwyck. I think Mary is one of the most interesting people at WGSN. She is tasked with forecasting the future of team sports, and we really looked at what that looks like for product design. You mentioned the tough economic climate that we're in right now. If you think about what that means for youth sports in particular, there probably that many young people aren't able to dabble in as many team sports. So what does that mean for product design? That means products that can essentially blend and blur across many different sports categories. And so shoes that kind of aren't just for running or walking, they're maybe for basketball and tennis simultaneously to kind of align with that shifting economic landscape that we're in right now. So she's very, very interesting. She knows a lot and she comes from a product design background. So I'm very excited about that episode. We also have an exciting episode coming up with Destiny Pinto. She is a UK-based accessible accessories designer, and she's making essentially high fashion accessories for accessible devices. Think ostomy bags made with lace that are really, really beautiful, accessible handbags that have different kind of compartments and functionality to them. So I'm excited. I haven't had my conversation with her yet, but that should be coming up soon. And I don't want to give too much away, but we do have a mix of both internal guests and external guests. Obviously, we have a vast team here at WGSN of various experts across lots of different product design areas. Some of our most listened to episodes are always things of color or fashion. So we're going to do a debrief after the fashion season that's coming up after March. We'll have Reiko on, who I know was on your podcast recently. I think she's brilliant. And she will talk us through color of the year changes and things of that nature. And yeah, I'm just really excited to really dive into that design element, that product design element, and really create more of a red thread as I come from that consumer background, really understanding what happens after you understand the consumer. What does that mean for design and how our consumers really showing up and gravitating towards different products. And I'm excited about that.
I think if we had a bingo card for these two podcasts over the past few years, this we would have said, trends move faster than ever. The world is changing faster than ever. You and I have spoken about polycrisis ad nauseum. We've started 2026 certainly with a very interesting news cycle. We're not going to get really political today, but there is a lot going on, and that has a huge impact on how consumers are feeling. I mentioned emotions beforehand, but those emotions, the way the world is turning, affect all of us. And, we say consumer, we talk about future consumer. You have consumer in your job title, but at the end of the day, consumers are human beings. And I think that's what I'm really excited to bring to life, that understanding of how those consumer behaviors are changing and shaping and will change in the future, and then hand over to you to go drill down right into those products and experiences that human beings are going to need and want in future years.
Yeah, I think if people listen to both podcasts, I think they'll have a really robust understanding of the entire trend landscape. And that's what I hope that we're doing, or by kind of moving things in this direction.
Yeah. One thing we probably won't be able to avoid is talking about AI. We're pretty obsessed with the intersection of AI and HI at WGSN. And by that, I mean artificial intelligence and human intelligence. It's obviously a methodology that we've been utilizing for a number of years now. And certainly in the conversations I'm having, my scan and my research, as AI adoption becomes more mainstream, we are only seeing the need for human intelligence, human intervention and interaction increase. And it's my belief that when the two come together, that's when real magic happens. And I'm looking forward to discussing more of that this year and beyond. So that's it for today. Short and sweet. If you can't wait for the new 2026 episodes, there are lots from 2025 to go back and catch on. Cassandra, what was your favorite from last year?
I think the favorite episode was probably with Kyle Smith from the NFL. We had been forecasting for so long about how sports and fashion are converging, and sports are the new kind of entertainment du jour for women in particular. And Kyle Smith is the fashion editor, the first fashion editor at the NFL, tasked with bringing the league to the masses. And what that means is he's kind of creating influencers out of athletes, right? So Joe Burrow, who's the quarterback, I think for the Cincinnati Bengals. I always get that wrong. I'm not a sports person, but he has become a staple in the fashion front rows, and he's walked Vogue World, and he's very much become somewhat of a tastemaker in the fashion scene. And I think most other leagues will probably follow suit and have their own sort of fashion liaison within the league, just to kind of communicate to the masses. I think the NBA is probably prime for that, most tennis, things of that nature. So I think they were really early on to it, and that conversation was probably the most rewarding for me because we had been forecasting it for years. So it was nice to it came full circle, I think. What was yours? I'm curious.
So because I knew I was going to ask you that question, I had to think about it for myself, and I went back through, which was actually quite nice. A little bit time over the kind of holiday break, listening to some old podcasts. I hate listening to the sound of my own voice, but it's good listening to other people's voices. I think it was probably Ruth Whitman. So she's an author and filmmaker. She's got boys, so she's bringing up boys. And we spoke more broadly about kind of attitudes towards masculinity, but also about the very practical nature of bringing up boys. So I found that conversation really enlightening. And then I always love talking to our WGSN experts. I know you probably would expect me to say that, but it's genuinely the case. Claire Varga, who's one of our VPs of forecasting, we had an absolute hoot talking about various beauty trends back in the autumn. So that was a really good one as well. There's a mine of information, and the big advantage is we're always talking about the future, so they remain relevant for long periods of time. So we'll definitely encourage everyone to go and kind of swat up on some of the previous ones before they look forward to 2026. So that's it for today. I'm going to be back in 14 days' time. We've got the first Lives of Tomorrow of the new year. I'm going to be talking to WGSN's Gemma Roberti about the first of our forecasted consumers for 2028, the Restorers. What have you got coming up next? I guess the one that you've just recorded, right?
Yeah, both Mary and then Destiny will come up after that. So please stay tuned, everyone.
Amazing. Well, that's it for now. My name's Carla Buzasi. I'm the CEO of WGSN. And Cassandra and I will look forward to chatting to you all in the coming weeks and months.